Okay, the joys of technology. I thought I had enough room on my memory card and I didn't, so here goes take two. Domain and range. As a heads up for this video, I'm going to be speaking for all levels at once, integrated 1 through integrated 3, so I'm actually going to be writing answers two different ways, so please just pay attention. I'll try to point it out, just kind of pay attention for the way, or for the type of answer that you saw in class. Domain is all inputs, which means it's usually the X values, while the range is all outputs, which means usually the Y values. Domain and range can be a conversation that is applied to a context or a situation. You know, if you're buying t-shirts, you're not going to buy half a t-shirt, you're going to buy a whole number of t-shirts. So that would affect your domain. You might have limits like maximum cost based on money in your wallet or something, so that might affect domain or range in certain problems. Specifically today, we're going to be talking about determining the domain and range when looking at a graph. So that's going to be our focus today, but same principles will apply to other situations in terms of how you will write your answers. So first up, I'm going to make a graph. We're going to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and I'm counting by 2's all the way around. Nice and simple. I'm going to come over here, grab a red one. I'm going to start here at -2, -1, put a nice big red dot. I'm going to go up to 3, 2. I'm going to connect that with a line. And that's the first graph we're going to take a look at. So we want to find the domain and the range of that graph. Starting off with domain. Okay, now here's the deal. I like to use some sort of straight edge. Post-it works great. This is just the side of my calculator. When we do this domain and range, we're going from small to big. Small to big. So when I come over here, we're talking about domain. I'm interested in the x-axis. I want to know which x values are part of my graph. So if I start on the left-hand side and I want to find that small number, I keep moving over and I see that I hit my graph at -2. So I'm going to go from -2 over to, and I need to find the biggest x value, and so I move my support over to the right-hand side and I shift it over, and eventually I see that I hit my graph at +3. So I'm going to go -2 to +3, and that is the integrated 1 answer, as we've talked about in class. If you're coming from integrated 2 or 3 and you've seen the interval notation video, because both these endpoints are closed, I'm going to write my answer like -2, 3, both with square brackets, and that is the integrated 3 answer I would expect to see. So just keep in mind for the rest of this video, I'm going to be showing both versions of those answers for reference. But again, go small to big and sandwich the axis that you're interested in. So let's go on to the range now. Same idea, I'm going to go small to big, but it's the range, so I'm interested in the y-axis. So I'm going to move my support up, and I didn't do the best job there. I'm going to say it's about halfway between, so I'm not just going to say 1, I'm going to say that that's -1.5. Okay? And that's going to keep going all the way up until I need to find what my maximum value is, so I bring this down, and it hits my graph right around that second tick mark, or 2. So I would say this would go -1.5 to 2. And again, both points are filled in, so we've got closed brackets, so my integrated 3 answer would be -1.5, comma, to 2. Okay? So, with that, let's take a look at another example. Planning to work through 3 here. So let's go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Okay. So start up here. Open dot. I know this will take me a second to draw, just bear with me. We'll go close. And okay, so first I've got 2 pieces here. That's A-okay. I'm going to take the same approach I did as before. Domain and range. First up for the domain, we're going to go small to big. So I start on the left hand side, I move my guide over, and I'm hand drawing this, so I'm going to go ahead and go to the nice number here, but I see where my graph hits right there. That's at -3, so I'm going to start at -3. And then I come to the right hand side to get the bigger value, biggest X value, and it hits here, which is kind of in between 2 points, but there's something special here. That's an arrow. And anytime we have an arrow, that means that the graph goes on forever. So if my graph goes on forever, then that means that it doesn't stop right here, but it would keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going all the way. So anytime you touch an arrow as your boundary, it's not that number, but rather we're going to go all the way to infinity, which we would say with a sideways 8. For the integrated 3 answer, that 3 would get a bracket because it's closed, and remember that infinity would always get parentheses. Okay? Next up, we can find our range. Same as before, I'm going to start small to big. Small means I'm coming from the bottom. I hit my graph at that -3 again. Okay? And then now when I come to the top, here's where we have to be careful, because when I first hit my graph, it's right here at this point. And it looks like I should be stopping at +3. But we got to keep in mind this arrow over here and the fact that we said that it would keep going on forever, which means just like how it extended to the right, it's going to extend up as well. And we would see more and more dots coming up. So even though the arrow looks like it's below the rest of my graph, if we think about extending it out, the range is also going to positive infinity. Now, also be careful for my integrated 3 people. That's an open circle at the bottom, so that -3 would have a parentheses in this case. And like normal, infinity always gets a parentheses as well. Okay? So I'm going to draw one more for us to take a look at. I think I can fit it on this page. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And we'll go one right here. 1. All closed dots. If you are watching this video, I would recommend that you pause for just a second right here. See if you can do that one on your own, domain and range. And whether you're integrated 1 or integrated 3, use whichever style is recommended for that class. So go ahead, take a moment, pause, try that one on your own, and then hit play and let's see what happens. Okay? So, when we look at this one, we're going to do domain and range, same as we have before. When I talk about domain, I'm going from left to right. When I start on the left, I hit an arrow. Well, we said an arrow is infinity, but it's in the left direction, which means I need smaller and smaller numbers. So I'm actually going to start at negative infinity. Now, a careful point here is that as I jump across all my graphs, there's no holes. If there's holes, we got to deal with those. But so far, all these graphs, they're connected all the way across. All the x values count. And when I jump over to the right-hand side, I hit another arrow as my boundary. So that means that I'm going all the way to positive infinity. If you're in integrated 3, you're going to write negative infinity and positive infinity. That plus sign's not necessary. I'm kind of in a habit of writing it. If there are negative signs there, you can assume that it's positive. Finally, let's talk about range for a second. Start from the bottom, y value. Wait till I hit my graph. I hit at negative 3. Now I had arrows for infinity, so I gotta be careful, but these are going straight across. So even if I extend them in either direction, they're not getting any lower, they're not getting any taller, so they're going to stay on their level. They're not going to go lower than this negative 3. So for my range, I'm starting at negative 3. And then if I move to the top, to find the largest y value, I hit at positive 3. And again, those two, they have arrows, they aren't going anywhere, so I'm going to stop at positive 3. Lastly, because I've got closed dots for both of those, if I was in the integrated 3 course, both of those values would end up with brackets. So remember, domain is all x values from small to big, range is all y values from small to big, inputs and outputs respectively. Do pay attention to the integrated 1 answer or the integrated 3 answer. Very similar, but just a little different, so please be attentive to that.